So I grew up pre-internet days, so no internet to tinker with or play with, but I did grow up and learn quickly about BBSs. For those that may not be familiar, these were like multi-user systems that you would dial into with a modem, and they had chat rooms, games, you could exchange files, fun things in the precursors of the internet. But I was a hobbyist kind of growing up. And then the internet became a thing. I was just fascinated with the technology, wanted to learn all about it, started playing with Linux and running a server at home and just kicking the tires to try to learn. And I hit 16, wanted to find my first job, and ended up finding a role at Circuit City. Again, dating myself, company that's defunct. But if you're not familiar with Circuit City, think Best Buy. They were a Best Buy competitor, but also were pretty innovative back in the day. They did a couple moonshot ideas for the company. They had these encrypted DVDs that they called DivX to try to do rentals, predating Netflix. And then they also decided to start a car dealership with CarMax, which surprisingly ended up outlasting the company. But
Did
anyway,
not know
back.
that.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize it spun out of Circuit City. It was a random moonshot
Ah,
idea for them. Apparently a good one. So I took this job at Circuit City in their corporate office for what they called Answer City, which was really their telephone tech support. So this was in the early 90s. It was people buying these Packard Bell computers right about the time Windows 95 came out, calling in for tech support help. And you got all the cliche stories that you would expect. Like literally got the phone call that somebody broke their cup holder, putting their coffee mug on the CD-ROM drive tray, thinking that it was just to hold coffee. But I'm sitting there at Circuit City, maybe 7, 8 months into the role, and they send out this company-wide email of, hey, there's this thing that's growing called the internet. Does anyone know anything about it or know what this Linux stuff is? So I respond to the email as a 16-year-old kid and say, hey, I've got a Linux server at home. I'm happy to help if I can. And I found myself at 16 years old helping to set up the original CircuitCity.com. And a couple months later, we set up CarMax.com, which was a really great experience early in the career. Feel very fortunate to get that sort of experience so early. So did that for a bit, and then I ended up going to Carnegie Mellon for undergrad, as Paul mentioned, and was really just in awe of Carnegie Mellon as an institution. For those that may not be familiar, they arguably were the birthplace of what we today call cyber. So in the early days when the internet was formed, they had a team after the Morris worm that was formed to help the Department of Defense think about what cyber and incident response looked like as a whole.